Hey guys, just checking I'm live on Facebook. Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S here for the video, and this video is one I meant to do a while back, but I quite get around to because someone asked. I thought about talking about my dyslexia story and that kind of thing, from a personal point of view and whatnot, which maybe other people could relate to. But my story is very unique. It's I've seen it my very own personal dyslexia story. But yeah, each person's story with dyslexia is probably very different. But someone on a group on Facebook, I don't know if I'll mention his group unless he wants me to. I'll probably share the video with him first and see if he wants me to share that group, and then if so, I'll post an info in the description on both Facebook and YouTube or whatnot. But anyway, it's a Facebook group about dyslexia. It doesn't limit it down. I was going to say. Anyway, doesn't narrow it down or whatever. But anywho, yeah, he asked about people to share their dyslexia story out and that kind of thing. So it's supposed to be only a 3-minute long video, I think he said. But I thought I'd talk about my own story, as unique as it is. So I can't remember exactly too much about it, but when I was younger, if I'm not mistaken, I did struggle to read. I don't remember again those times. I don't remember not being able to read, but I must have struggled with it. And a special ed teacher, I think her name was, or I knew her as Mrs. Fellows, if I got it right, taught me how to spell. And I used to think she was really strict, if I remember correctly, because I think when I was reading, and sometimes I think I knew the word, but she wouldn't be patient enough to wait for me. So that's probably why I read quite quickly. I remember when I was at a different school, a bit older, and I was reading something, and someone said, "No need to shout, I'm right next to you." So, but then I became quite good at spelling, so you probably can't tell I'm dyslexic unless I tell you. I know I have my terrible punctuation, but I don't know why I do that. It's just, I guess, where things are. But I don't think that's a dyslexia-related issue because you don't see many or any other dyslexics right that way. But yeah, I guess it will be different for each person. I remember I said to my dad, "I'm really thick" or something like that, and he said he was getting really annoyed, which I felt a bit strange because I was putting myself down. But he was getting defensive and saying, "Oh, you're not thick." And he said, "I think my dad doesn't. He's like me. He's not the most patient. I think he gets irritated with things in life sometimes. But don't we all, as they say, I guess." But he said the teacher who taught you how to spell, Mrs. Fellows, her son. I've already gone past the 3-minute mark, but her son was dyslexic, if I remember correctly. I'm remembering something from about 30 years ago somehow. Maybe a bit less than that, but anyway, he said her son was dyslexic, but maybe actually it's probably more than 30 years. God, I'm old, but anyway, but his girlfriend taught him how to spell. So it just means you have. I think my dad said it just means you have to work harder. But to me, that meant if you have to work harder, if you have to run more, or if you have to work harder in anything, I felt that meant that other people were born better naturally, I guess. But I know I heard stories about people with dyslexia who have achieved. People like Richard Branson talk about being dyslexic. So I've got to admit, I shouldn't say this probably, but my dad doesn't really like him. But some controversial things that he's done. But I won't get into too much into that right now. But I will say this though, that people like Richard Branson and others like him have, for one of no way put it, people like Richard Branson and others have by talking about being dyslexic, I think they've inspired a lot of people. I probably gave too much information there when I said my dad doesn't like him, but he has talked about being dyslexic, which I think has inspired people like myself, and I think a lot of other people probably have been inspired even to run their own businesses or do great things. But generally, but yeah, I don't know if I'd say much more about my dyslexia story. As I say, I don't think you can tell I'm dyslexic unless I tell you. Although I was when I was really interested in running my own business, I sent this black guy, as it happens. So I know he was a black guy, as it happens. All these ideas I had, and we were discussing, and he agreed to meet me at a cafe, and we were discussing, and his missus was there, and he said, out of all your ideas, what's your favourite one? And at that time I said, probably a network for dyslexic billionaires. And I don't know if he heard me properly, but he probably thought I just said a network for dyslexics. I'm assuming. But anyway, he said, why dyslexics? You have dyslexia? I said, yeah. And he said, oh, because I'm a bit blunt, I say it as it is. He says, when I saw your ideas, I said to my wife, is this guy nuts? And his wife said, oh, and I replied to him, no, he's probably just a bit dyslexic. And she said, I could tell you were dyslexic from your ideas, because she used to be a teacher. And she said, you had lots of creativity and things like that, so I could see that the way you explain things. So I was surprised people could tell I'm dyslexic without me actually saying it, because I don't think I make that many spelling mistakes, even though I'm dyslexic. Like Mrs. Fellows did a really good job, even though I used to think she was a pain and she was really strict, and she did give me time to read, as I remember, if I remember it correctly. But and I failed in my initiative of keeping it down short and sweet. So I hope Maurice, the guy who asked for this a long time ago, and he's still interested in it. I did write to him to ask if he's still interested in it, but I thought I'd make this video anyway. But yeah, I read about loads of famous and successful dyslexics and things that have motivated me. And I'm passionate about dyslexia, and I want to try and finish this off. Actually, I could talk all night. I think lots of dyslexic people probably could talk all night, so all night and all day. I'm sure many of us are the same. But once we get going, once we overcome our shyness or whatever, sometimes I can be very shy. But I don't want to say dyslexia is an excuse. I don't want to make dyslexia an excuse to be lazy, or to, even though I'm quite lazy myself, I don't want to say you can't do things because you're dyslexic. Quite the contrary. And it's not about being a victim or anything like that. If someone says I'm dyslexic, so I can't set up a business, well, that can't be true, because people like Simon Squibb, I think even Mark Tilbury, they call Mark Tilbury, Richard Branson, Theo Fetis, Damon John, Peter Jones, even Duncan Bannatyne, Barbara Corcoran, even one for the women and the girls, and so many others have achieved who are dyslexic, and some say not even in spite of their dyslexia, but because of it. And they say different for a reason. And I think some great organisations are like Made by Dyslexia, the Yale Centre for Dyslexia and Creativity, which actually came first, I think, and later the Dyslexia Advantage, and then Made by Dyslexia, the Child Mind Institute, and Understood, and many others, and they're really good organisations, I think. I probably said don't pay them a commission. But on a serious note, they are very good organisations, and they do some great stuff. So I think I was just going to talk about my own story, but I thought I want to say that because I thought as well, when I make these videos, I also like to make people think and inspire people, encourage people, motivate people, the same thing, I guess, and to make the world a better place and that kind of thing. So I say, please don't think you can't do something because you're dyslexic. He says, talking about myself in the third person. I know I'm probably guilty of saying the same thing with my dyspraxia. I also have dyspraxia as well, and I think that keeps me back much more. But I say it can't be true that you can't set a business because you're dyslexic, because there are many dyslexic people who set up a business, probably even because they're dyslexic. And I think if you are not very confident about being dyslexic, I think you should check out Made by Dyslexia, possibly the Yale Centre for Dyslexia and Creativity, certainly Dyslexia Advantage, the Child Mind Institute, and Understood, which I think covers more. In the case of the latter two, I think they cover more learning disabilities more generally. But anyway, sorry, I know I've not managed to keep this down short and sweet, but yeah, I think it's worth checking. And you can even Google like famous dyslexics, motivation for dyslexia, and things like that. And I'd love to build a network where we can network together and encourage each other. And sometimes it's about even knowing your weaknesses and knowing, like, it's like Simon Squibb says, in school they made him read, write, and double down on things he's not very good at, make him do more English and maths and things like that. Whereas, because in business, if you find what you're good at and then delegate all the things you're not so good at, so you might say, well, let's say someone's good at maths and they're not good at the English side. You do more maths and you network, or employ people who are good at the English, and vice versa. If you're good at English but you're not good at maths, it would make more sense to again employ people who can, or even network with people, or whatever, or both, who can do the other side of things, which is easier said than done. I mean, part of me would think, obviously, you've got to pay those people, of course, but or give something back. But again, if I'm good at maths and someone else is good at English, I'm still trying to find what I'm good at. But blabbering on probably, but then you can network with people and achieve a lot more. And I think the challenges of setting up a business, like the funding and all those things, could be cured by networking together, because we can make life easier for each other. So yeah, please don't believe you can't because you're dyslexic. I didn't actually mean to include that message in this video, but when I was at college, I got into college for a while, I don't know why, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. But when I was at college for a bit, I was in this group for people with more severe learning disabilities, even people with like Down syndrome, severe levels of autism, and all sorts of things like that. And I got a bit bored, and I just kept checking for like famous dyslexics, and that's where I came up with the idea, I think, for Dyslexic Billionaires Network, and for like a rich list for dyslexics and things like that. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Again, I could go on all night, but I'm out. Peace and love.